Live from Orlando, Florida, you're listening to the Orlando Magic HQ podcast, the voice of Magic fans. Join us every week for a unique fan perspective on all of the latest Magic news and updates. The show starts now.
What's up, Magic fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Orlando Magic HQ / close-up. Today is a mashed up episode. We got Steven and Al, myself, Anthony, and podcast brought to you by Believe Podcast Network and Bet Online. We're finally able to record. We decided to do a joint episode just to kind of get all of our collective thoughts on Game 7. Unfortunately, the Magic lose Game 7 against the Cleveland Cavaliers, which, in my opinion, it was looking so promising the first two quarters. Everything was going our way. We were hitting three-point shots. Paolo Banchero was going off. The only thing consistent in this game was probably Franz Wagner really not doing anything the whole entire game. But, man, I want to get initial reactions from both of you. But before we jump into it, just a quick word from our sponsor, Bet Online. Bet Online is your number one source for all of your summer sports this season, from Major League Baseball, golf, NBA, and NHL playoff stats. All the latest stats, news, and scores available to follow your favorite teams. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest team matchups, player props, and odds on just about every sport that's out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. So these playoffs were really fun. Steven, you traveled down from Cali to Orlando to be able to catch a playoff game. Al, you traveled from Orlando to Cleveland to go watch Game 7 in Cleveland, so I'm sure that was an experience. But before we get to you, Al, Steven, how was it being able to be down here locally and be able to check out a game?
You know, honestly, it was one of the best games I've ever been to. I was at Game 6. We were in 117, which is right above the corner, directly across from. It's the entrance where I think the Cavs come in and out of. But man, it was awesome. It the energy was electric. You know, you're walking in and the band and the hype squad is in the main area playing drums, and I think there was smoke machines and all sorts of maybe not. It looked foggy at one point, but it was just a really good experience. You know, obviously the game was phenomenal. I grew up watching this team, right? I was in high school and early college during the Dwight years, and I didn't go to those games specifically. I watched them all on television, but I never had a chance to go to those games. So this was my first official Orlando Magic game, playoff game, and it hit all the checkpoints. A close game, a competitive game, an awesome electric crowd, big shots from both teams, and good drinks afterwards. I can't complain. That's all I wanted to go see was a competitive basketball game with an amazing crowd, and that's what I got. And it checked every box, man, every single box.
Yeah, the party that I had at my house with my two kids and wife was also awesome. I feel like, when I'm at home, I'm a little more, I would say that I'm way more vulgar, right? Which my wife hates it because unfortunately these words come out when kids are present. So I try to censor myself as much as I can. But man, the amount of adrenaline that I had in my system, the amount of heart racing that I had, blood pressure, there was just no control of my emotions during any of these series, which is pretty crazy. So, man, playoffs were a lot of fun. Al, how did you make it to Cleveland on Game 7? It was literally, you sent me a text message saying, "Hey, are we gonna go to downtown and go to the watch party?" And then out of nowhere, I find out through Twitter that you're going to the game. So talk to me how you ended up being in Cleveland for Game 7.
Dude, so just like you are surprised and it came out of nowhere for you, the same thing happened to me. So Game 6 ends, we win. I'm high-fiving people walking out of the arena. We go to dinner. My wife the whole time is like, "Hey, we got to talk. We got to talk." And I'm thinking she's like, I don't know, upset about something. Maybe I scream at a fan of the game and say something vulgar because I do that at the game sometimes. So I'm thinking something along those lines. Goes to find out, she shows me her phone. It's like, hey, listen, I got your tickets for game 7. And I'm like, what? So then we went from that night, had some drinks, had a good time, to Saturday when we wake up and like, all right, let's look at flights. And man, flights to Cleveland were super expensive. So I'm like, I'm not dropping $1,000 on flights to Cleveland. It's just not going to happen. So the whole morning we spent there looking at deals. Can we fly to Akron? Can we fly to Pittsburgh? Can we fly? What way can we get to Cleveland? Can we drive there? So last minute we found some great deal to go to Pittsburgh. We made it happen at 3 p.m. on Saturday. Mind you, our flight left at 7 p.m. So we had to rush and pack and bring our dog to my in-laws. From Saturday at 3 p.m. till like Monday morning, we did not rest. We got home at 2 a.m. To Orlando on Sunday after our game 7 loss. So that was painful. But I will tell you, man, that's how it happened. Now, the experience there, first things first, arena's amazing at Cleveland. If you haven't been to Cleveland and you're listening to this and you want to go to an away game, flights are usually cheap. Tickets are usually cheap. So beautiful arena. What you hear about Cleveland, who goes to vacation there, is true. Not a lot to do. Some good restaurants. It was okay. I did find a Harry Buffalo. So if you miss it in Orlando, they have one out there. But man, game 7 was an experience. I think I tweeted afterwards, if I could do it 100 times out of 100, I would do it again. Main reason was Magic fans. So me and my wife were like, we're going to be the only ones there. Goes to find out the entire section where I was sitting right behind the Magic bench was all Magic fans. And dude, when I'm talking about like Alex Martin was sitting right behind me, Jeff Weltman, John Hammond, Anthony Parker to my right. And he became like this unified group where we were chanting, let's go Magic throughout the game, especially the first like 20 minutes of the game that we're winning. It was a great experience. I got to talk to Alex. I got to talk to Jeff Weltman. Got to meet a lot of people that are employees of the Magic that, number one, knew who Orlando Magic HQ was. I happened to take a quick video for Instagram. And one of the guys like, hey, are you from Orlando Magic HQ? Because I just saw the video on your story and I was on it. Yep. So amazing experience. Again, incredible. I would definitely do it again. But that's how it happened, man. It was not planned. It was truly a last minute thing. So major shout out to my wife who came through last minute without me expecting it. Last playoff game I was on the road. Wife of the year. Trust me, man. I got to get her back some way, somehow, in a nice way. But my last Magic game on the road had been at Boston, 2010, when the Magic ended up losing the Eastern Conference Finals with Dwight, Vince, and the whole squad. So to go from that to this game 7, incredible. 2 of the best years of my life as Magic fans. So it was a great experience. That's how it happened. Unfortunately, as you said, Anthony, it ended up being a loss. But still, it was a great, great time.
Yeah, I think the hard part is going to be for her to top it, like the next playoff series. So just a suggestion, tell her that if she wants to one-up it, to get an additional ticket so that we can all go together as a group. That's just my idea. Just throw it out there. If it's a no, it's a no. But I think that should at least be in the realm of conversation.
Maybe a box. Well, maybe a box next time for the whole HQ crew.
Yeah. All you can eat, all you can drink. I mean, listen. So in today's episode, we're going to go a little more deep into Game 7. We're also going to talk about some of the rumors that we're already hearing, which is pretty crazy, right? Because the minute that the season ended and our postseason dreams are gone, poof, the offseason rumor mill already starts running like almost immediately, which is pretty cool because it's different than what we're used to. But and then how can we not? So before we fully jump into Game 7, Dwight Howard in attendance for Game 6 with Rashard Lewis. This is the first time that Dwight Howard is back in any Orlando Magic capacity since he left. So I saw a lot of mixed feelings. I saw a majority of the fan base, at least from an online perspective, was embraced it. You still had a few out there that, you know, we're not feeling that whatsoever. But for the most part, from what it sounded like and from what it looked like, Dwight Howard was having an amazing time. He was dancing, he was smiling, he was meeting, you know, old friends and whatever case may be. I heard him even talk about it on his podcast where, you know, it was an awesome experience. And then some of the things that he's kind of written on social media also was highlighting the Orlando Magic on, you know, how much he was rooting for us, and we had a great postseason. The future is bright. So, Steven, my question to you would be, what were your thoughts on Dwight Howard returning, and what could this mean for, Dwight Howard and the Orlando Magic in the future?
Man, honestly, like, he was sitting floor side, like in the corner right above my section. So I saw him walk out. I'm like, oh shit, that's Dwight. I loved it. I've been over the Dwight stuff for a couple of seasons now. We have, moved on from the era directly after him. And then kind of when we got this fresh group of players, with Franz and Suggs and, Paulo now, I kind of emotionally was like, cool, we're in a good spot. We're fine. So I was really hyped. It wasn't announced. We knew Rashard Lewis was going to be there. It's expected to, not unsurprising to see Terrence Ross and Vucevic, who still live in the area, show up to games 3 and 4. So I loved watching Dwight come over. He has been a pretty good advocate for this team the entire year. Like, I think earlier on this year, he joined Foz. I mess up his name, but he joined a Spaces for Orlando Magic, and talked like Magic and the Magic days. He's, had some good comments to say about the team on Twitter throughout the season, and I just think he's just kind of at this point where he can be accepting and want to be a part of this organization again. And like, it was really cool. He probably, I don't know, maybe the team reached out to him, maybe he reached out to the team, but regardless, like, it seems like their relationship is getting to a better spot where they're welcoming back with open arms to join a playoff game and watch. And it was awesome. I noticed I would look down at him every now and then, and every time I look down at him, every single person that would walk up to him or want to greet him, he's taking the time to shake hands, take photos. Him and Dante gave each other a huge hug during the moment. It was just a really good experience. So I'm psyched that Dwight is back. I hope that he comes back for 2 or 3 games next season and just continues to build that relationship back with Orlando Magic community. The team, the fan base, the organization. I think it was a really good step for those that are still feeling negative to bridge that gap a little bit and kind of heal some wounds.
Yeah, for me, it was very nostalgic because first I thought it was an awesome idea, making sure that it wasn't him by himself. It was him and Rashard Lewis. Yep. I don't know if that was strategic, but it was definitely good that they did that just in case. I feel like Rashard Lewis was kind of like a safeguard. But it was nostalgic for me. Dwight Howard has always been a positive presence. Like, he's always been criticized for just being a happy person that kind of joked around. And his departure from Orlando obviously was the Dwight mare. Like, it was not pretty. It did end sour, but let's be honest. Like, it happened with everyone. Tracy McGrady leaving, sour. Penny Hardaway, sour. Shaquille O'Neal. It just is what it is. Like, Dwight Howard could have handled it differently, but at the same time, like, the Magic aren't perfect, right? The Magic, they've made their mistakes. Maybe not with Dwight Howard specifically, but the Magic have made their mistakes in the past. And the way that I see it, man, is that Dwight Howard, he has such a big history with this franchise. Like, this is, the Kia Center is the building that we built. We built that building almost in essence for him. Like, not physically, primarily for him, but this was a part of our plan to make sure that he stayed and whatever. Like, he was a big piece to that. And I feel like, man, he deserves so much more than what he's gonna. Forget all the other stuff that people are talking about on the outside, all the gossip and whatever weird stuff happens outside of the Orlando Magic. Like, well, I will keep that in a little box and kind of throw it away. None of my business. That stays over there. But when it comes to Dwight Howard and the Orlando Magic, if we ignore just that small piece that very similar to you, Steven, I'm over it. I got his jersey hanging up right behind me. I love the fact that they've at least publicly are in good terms, and I feel like Dwight Howard is a player that deserves way more than just a little plaque in our Hall of Fame. Like, his jersey definitely deserves to be in the rafters. Al, what about you?
Yeah, man. I mean, you guys have already said it. What I will say is, I'm a Magic fan. In a large portion of it, I grew up in that era, right? With Dwight, Courtney Lee, Hito, Vince. That's when I really became a diehard fan. I was too young for the Shaq days, so for me, he is this person that I look up to and say, man, this is my Magic legend. Why I'm a Magic fan today? Dwight's a big reason why. And I tweeted that day, the reason why we built the Kia Center is because of Dwight Howard. So, as a Magic fan, I get it. It didn't end well. However, I will say it was kind of weird not seeing him at the arena the entire season when we celebrated all these legends for the 35th anniversary. And it was kind of cool that whether the Magic invited him or he invited himself, he made it out for Game 6 and he made it about himself. Because again, it was a great show. He had a blast with stuff. And it was great to see him there for their final home game, right? Like, again, nobody expected it. So to see him there, that was really cool. And like you said, my biggest takeaway really is Shaq has now publicly said he regrets leaving Orlando the way that he did. Dwight said the same thing. So I'm hoping these young players that we now have that think, hey, man, maybe I can go to LA, maybe I can go to New York. Understand, I mean, there's been a trajectory here of people that leave the city of Orlando, only to come back and say, man, I had it all there. I had the city in my hands. They supported me. The team was always behind me. Why did I do that? I regret it. Hopefully, I'm talking about Paolo, talking about Franz, all these young guys, they're listening and they can say, hey, man, like, we have something special that we're building here. And let's learn from our past. But it was great to see him. Hopefully, he'll be here more. And to your point, Anthony, he should be the next jersey we retire, in my mind. No doubt about it.
Yeah, because even in his most recent podcast that he had, he did a podcast on his podcast, but he also did the OGs with Mike Miller. There's always some level of connection with the Orlando Magic alumni, which I think is pretty cool. But he talked about his little beef that he had with Shaquille O'Neal and how the Magic decided to retire the first fake Superman jersey, which I think is fun, man, because they're always going to have their beef, and it really stems from the fact that a large part of Dwight Howard's career was very similar to Shaquille O'Neal, getting drafted by Orlando with the first pick, having success, making it to the finals. I mean, the big difference is, Dwight Howard can at least say that he got one finals win over Shaquille O'Neal in Orlando, and then him kind of going to LA and then playing with Kobe. Like, in my opinion, that's really the issue that that Shaquille O'Neal has. Like, Shaquille O'Neal has this somehow weird claim to the word dominant, right? Where no other big man is ever as dominant as he is, and the fact that Dwight Howard was dominant, I think, really internally bothers Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille O'Neal recently, and in one of his episodes, his podcast with JJ Redick, even asked him, like, do you feel like Dwight Howard was dominant in your Orlando Magic eras? Like, who was a better Orlando Magic center? And you can tell that Shaquille O'Neal almost didn't even let JJ Redick answer the question, because we all know that answer, right? Shaquille O'Neal was very dominant his young rookie days with Penny, and it was a big deal. But come on, man, you can't discredit what Dwight Howard did in a Magic uniform.
If the years had been the same, it wouldn't be a question. But the problem is Shaq left in 4, and Dwight made a larger, bigger impact longer. He literally saved the team from moving. The team wouldn't be in Orlando if it wasn't for Dwight's success. There was rumors that the team was going to have to relocate.
Kansas City.
Yeah, we could be the Kansas City Magic people. And so, like, of course, divorce is always messy. What player who has asked for a trade has not made a mess of it, right? Very few. At some point, you just got to get over it. And, I'm psyched to see Dwight back, and I hope this is the first of many. And, yeah, let's go Dwight.
Yeah. We talked about way more Dwight than I thought we were going to in this episode, but obviously a hot topic. Now, let's jump right back. Let's not lose focus. Jump right back into Game 7. Paolo Banchero, man, dude has been awesome all postseason long. Obviously, he had a great season. He had like maybe one game where Franz kind of took over during the series against the Cavs. But outside of that, man, Paolo was big time for us. Dropped 39 points, 16 rebounds in his first Game 7 in his second year in the NBA. Steven, I'll start with you. How impressed are you with what we've seen from Paolo? And then give me just your quick overview on what you wish the Magic would have done more in Game 7.
Yeah, Paolo is him. I don't think there's too many other ways to say it. You want to watch your young player show up to the big moments and perform, and we don't have to question if Paolo is going to do that. We have questions on other players on the team if they can do that, but we don't have to question Paolo because he proved it all season, and he proved it in the playoffs when it really matters. Game 7, game on the line, he was there with everything. I got the box score up too. He also had 3 steals and a block. He had a couple turnovers. He had 5, but he had the ball in his hands. That's gonna happen in a game 7. The things that I wish we had seen more of, and I won't go too deep on this. I'm sure we will as a group, but you want to see your second and third best player get some points up. Jalen Suggs and Franz Wagner went 3 of 28 combined for like 16 points or something like that, and it's just not enough. That's not enough. We had the amazing first half. The fairy tale story first half with just the wrong again. I can't think of a movie caption to put it in, but just a really bad second half. So, but Al, you were there in person. I was watching it from an airplane. What are your thoughts on the Game 7?
Dude, so as you guys already both mentioned, that first 18 minutes of that game, right? So that first quarter and a half. When I tell you that, where I was sitting right behind the Magic bench, it felt like a home game for us. It was electric. The arena at Cleveland was quiet. It truly, for a second, felt like we were going to win that game, and it was going to be in easy fashion. I really thought we were going to pull off a 20-point win in that game. But to your point, Steven, things changed dramatically. And to me, as a fan sitting there, it all started when Franz picked up that third foul in the second quarter. And we had to rely on the bench to come in and help out Paolo, which didn't happen. So the Cavs ended the half. They went from being down 18 to being down 10. And then third quarter starts and they go on a big run right after. And the lead went from 10 to 2 in legitimately 4 minutes. I'm like, what did just happen here? So that momentum just shifted so quickly. And not to put excuses, not to again, it is what it is. We lost. It was a hard-fought series. If you go back to when the playoff series started against the Cavs, we all said it. We wanted a hard-fought series. We wanted to compete, and we did just that. So we are satisfied as Magic fans today. But I got to say, man, the game did shift a lot from the referee standpoint as well after we were up 18. All of a sudden, all these ticky-tacky fouls started getting called against Cleveland. And just looking at the stats, I didn't realize until now, they ended up calling a total of 32 fouls against the Magic, 23 against the Cavs. And I can tell you, a large majority of that came after we were up 18 points. So it's unfortunate to see the refs kind of get involved so much in that game. Again, no excuses for Franz, for Suggs for not showing up. But to your point, Steven, we got a guy in Paolo Banchero that's going to lead us to great places in years to come. So that's for sure now. For him to do what he did in his first playoff series is unbelievable. I mean, we're talking about things that only LeBron has done in history. So we're in good hands. It was disappointing. It was heartbreaking. But at the end of the day, man, we did what we're supposed to do. We did more than what we're supposed to do as a team this season. Disappointing ending, but in the big picture, we accomplished more than we thought.
Yeah, I can't. If first half was so much fun, Game 7 against Cleveland, I saw all the blue in the arena. There was obviously a Magic presence. But the amount of text messages that I got from non-Magic fan friends and also family members saying, congratulations, Cavs, they just didn't show up. Magic, they came ready to play Game 7. Cavs just don't have it. The amount of text messages that I received and I didn't respond to because I'm like, no, this is way too early. There's no celebrating because it's 2024 basketball. A big lead means absolutely nothing nowadays. Nothing. Mm-hmm. And long behold, what was it, the last 5, 6, 7 minutes of the, until the second half, Cavs took the momentum, and they literally, it's like they took the basketball and went home because we never got it back. Like, it was, nothing was going our way. We couldn't get on a run to save our life. Franz Wagner, man, he was more of a liability, unfortunately. Paulo Banchero it felt like he was out there by himself. The second unit wasn't any help either. Like, it was a tough way to end the season. But, no matter how we were feeling in that moment, losing such an important game and how passionate we were, at the end of it, once everything settles, like, Al, this is what you and I talked about. Like, this is exactly what we want. No matter what happens in the series, all that we ask is that the Magic have a good playoff showing, because the number one marketing tool that we can have is competing in this series where we've now extended to a Game 7. We've been on ABC, we've been on TNT, like these national televised games, and even in the middle, like in the first half, where the Magic are winning, Trae Young even goes on Twitter and I can't remember the exact tweet, but something along the lines of, Paulo Banchero, like, I love his game, right? This is what we want. Like, now when it comes to free agency, now when it comes to trading, like now, these players need to feel like, man, if they have me, I'm the missing piece to them being able to take it to another level. And I feel like we did a damn good job being able to do that. Like, you do that. Like, a part of me also feels as if, and I'll ask, you, Steven, your thoughts on it. But let's say we won Game 7. Competitive. We ended up scratching out. We won Game 7. But then we get swept. Let's just say, hypothetically, we get swept by Boston. Do you think that would have hurt us from maybe a free agency or just a marketing standpoint? Like, do you feel like it helped us being competitive, stretching out to Game 7? But if we didn't perform as well, round 2, do you think that could have hurt us?
I'll give you one better, man. I absolutely think that is true. I think leaving this on a positive note of Game 7 in the first round is good. Now, granted, I don't know if we might have gotten swept, but like, I think there would have been some competitiveness within the second round. But yeah. But maybe it would have been a gentleman's sweep. I don't know. It would have been really tough, I think. But ultimately, one better is I also want the Cavs to push the Celtics. Now, granted, we saw them have a very bad first game, but I want this to be a competitive series too, because we lost to a team in 7 games. I want them to go push the number 1 seed in the East to 6 or 7 games and make it a competitive series. That doesn't make the Magic win feel so good if they go get swept by Boston, right? And I know some Magic fans are like, maybe not going to agree with that, and they're like, no, I want to see the Cavs who beat us lose real fast and get swept. I'm telling you, that doesn't make me look as good. I want the team that beat us to go be super competitive in the next round. Maybe not get past it, but go be competitive, because I want that to show that the Magic played a good performing team and not one that just played good against the Magic. So that's kind of how I feel about that question, and a little cherry on top with the Cavs in the second round as well.
Al, what about you?
Yeah, I actually agree with Steven. I mean, I don't know if it's going to happen, because Boston's, in my mind, they're locked in. Whether it was
Probably
Cleveland
not.
or us, they're going to the finals. Unless injuries happen, in my mind, the Boston Celtics will be in the finals, and possibly my favorites to win it all. So I do want the Cavs, again, to win at least a couple games, make it competitive. To Steven's point, I want people to say, hey, man, the Magic went 7 games with this team who pushed the Celtics and made it competitive against them. Not just, hey, they lost in 4, they're swept. The Magic did not really do much there. So let's see what happens. I think the Celtics will win, but I hope the Cavs do make it interesting at least.
You think it's going to be the Celtics, but joke's on you, is going to be the Timberwolves and the Knicks.
I am rooting against the Knicks big time. That's all I'm going to say. But,
no, I don't think the Knicks.
Agreed.
I don't think the Knicks will make it that far. But I'm super rooting for the Timberwolves. I think the Timberwolves, and not to get sidetracked, but Timberwolves being a team that is a small market team is a win for the Orlando Magic. And I felt this way when Milwaukee won it. I felt this way when Denver won it. Yep. These small market teams, and we're starting to see that trend, right? The trend of these teams who are winning, they're winning with the players that they drafted And then once they get a little established, then they start adding pieces that fit the best to get them over the hump. And I feel like we're on that same trajectory. Like we're on that same path. Like we have a good draft core, and I don't know if it's going to be this season, next season. Like I don't know. Like at what point do you really put all the chips in and say, okay, we're going to go out and win it now? Because the Magic have that opportunity, and this is, transitioning kind of into the offseason rumors that we've already heard. Like there's a lot of names that are already connecting, big names who are being connected to the Orlando Magic, which is a little new of a feeling for us because that wasn't the case in the last decade, right? But Paul George, who's already turned down a bunch of contracts from the Clippers and is going to see free agency. Klay Thompson also being connected to the Orlando Magic. When we hear these names, and before we even get to these names specifically, Steven, do you consider this a win? The fact that the Orlando Magic are now up and coming, and now we're hearing a lot of buzz from these players that the Magic, at the very least, have a huge opportunity to have a conversation. Like we haven't even been able to get them at the table, but now it feels like we might at the very least have an opportunity to be able to at least negotiate.
I think when you look at the season we had and you look at how Jeff Weltman and at the time John Hammond and now Anthony Parker have lined up our cap space, things are pretty awesome, right? We have flexibility now and even next summer before Franz and Jalen Suggs, assuming contract extensions that might happen this summer or just their next contracts in general, we have an opportunity of window to go spend on a really nice free agent, maybe a couple nice free agents, depending on the level they are of players. And it's kind of lining up perfect that the Magic had the best season they've had in years, coming off an awesome playoff performance, and clearly have some amazing talent with Paulo and Franz and Suggs on the team, and even a healthy Jonathan Isaac season. So I think it's going to be very helpful for this team this summer if they choose to go spend money. I would love Paul George here. I'm not going to lie. I don't know if it's going to happen. Probably not, but I would love to go chase a fish like that, right? It's only going to help make our team better, make our young players better. And we can get into that a little bit more deeper later if you guys want to, but yeah, it's all lining up the way it should be, and I love that the front office has done their job by continuing to give us cap flexibility and not making a stupid trade that would not allow us to have money now, before, or sign someone dumb. Like, it's great that they've rolled things over and given so many people team options. I don't care that they overspend on Joe Ingles because they can just turn it down, next year. So it's, I'm psyched.
Yeah, I think the part that I feel is probably the most underrated importance in all of this, if the Magic can convince Paul George, come to Orlando, come check it out, have a conversation with the front office, I think that sends a loud message across free agency, right? I think that if you do the same thing with, Klay Thompson, come to Orlando, have a conversation, check out our practice facility, check out, have a conversation with the Magic front office. I think that also sends a very, very loud message against free agency. I honestly, if I'm predicting, right, and we've heard the names Klay Thompson, Paul George, so those are the big names. We've heard, other players out there who aren't happy with their situation. There's also other free agencies. We've heard, Tyus Jones all season long, Malik Monk. Like, these are all names in the pool that Magic have a good opportunity in acquiring talent if they want to, right? I don't see Klay Thompson honestly leaving Golden State Warriors. This is my prediction. This is my opinion. I don't see him really leaving. I would see him leaving, just not being the first one, right? I always expected Draymond Green to be the first one, but in my honest opinion, like, I don't think Klay leaves unless Steph leaves. And I think that they're going to find a way to keep him in Cali, right? Paul George, I don't see it I don't see us spending the amount of money it would take to have Paul George, and I do see, there being kind of a better fit from where he is with Philadelphia. Like Paul George hasn't been to the finals, doesn't have really a clear shot. Like it's really hard for him in the West. I think it's time for him to move back east. I kind of see, it happening more with Philly. So with that, I think that for us, realistically, I see the Magic, increasing our talent in terms of the standard free agencies, like the free agents. Like I see us going after Tyus Jones, Malik Monk. I see us maybe even have a conversation with D'Angelo Russell. So Al, my question to you is, would you be disappointed if the Magic can't get a big fish? And we've heard some of the exit interviews from Jeff Weltman, but if the Magic decided to stand pat and maybe just sign a couple players, like, would that be a disappointment for you, or do you think that would be the right route for the Magic to go?
So I actually think that is the way it's going to go. So I love the fact that we're being mentioned, Klay Thompson, Paul George. We've heard Trae Young, trade rumors. Love it, right? To your point, it's been over 10 years that we haven't heard the Magic be players in free agency. Last time I heard of a name that may come to Orlando was the Dwight days. CP3 as a guy that we were trying to trade for, and that Dwight really wanted in Orlando. That goes back 14 years. So it's been a while that we've been players in free agency, players in the trade market. So let's enjoy what we can. But I will tell you what, I think our front office plays us low. I don't think they go necessarily for the kill. To your point, Paul George right now would cost us, I don't care what people are saying out there, give him a 2-year, $100 million contract. He's not going to leave for that. He's going to want to come to Orlando if he gets $220 for 4 years. That's the only way he leaves the Clippers, to come to Orlando. So I don't see that happening. Same with Klay. And not for nothing, those guys, in my opinion, are a little bit past their prime, if you ask me, with our roster. Paul George is 35 years old, injury history. Klay Thompson, over 34, injury history. If you pay those guys $200 million to come to Orlando and they get hurt in the second month of the season, and they'll be missing, 3-4 weeks or whatever, maybe months, that's a nightmare scenario for us. So what I really see more likely is you go after Malik Monk, Nick Claxton, you go after Tyus Jones, guys that can be added to what we're building, but yet take us to a next level. That's kind of what I see us doing the most. Would I love us to trade for Trae Young to get Paul George? Absolutely. Don't get me wrong. But are we going to do it? I really don't think so. Let's see. They may shock us all. We may be here July 1st doing a group pod once again and be celebrating because we landed a big fish. I would love that if that happens. But realistically, the fan in me thinks we play it slow. We add pieces to what we're building that fit the locker room, that fit the on the court action. That's what I think is going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, Steven, you take a look at what the Magic have, right? So we have another first-round pick coming up. We have Denver's first-round pick the year after. You still have Anthony Black and Dwight Howard, who, the Magic have put a huge focus around their development this year. But we really didn't get a chance to see a whole lot from Dwight Howard. We really didn't get a chance to see, we were able to see Anthony Black a portion, due to injuries and whatnot, but we really didn't get a chance to see him full time. Would you see it being, a good idea for the Magic to not bring in, because the fear is if you trade a bunch of pieces, because we know eventually, and we've talked about this many times, is that the Magic, we're gonna have to consolidate, right? But is it worth at the expense of losing the Magic's identity, right? You could very well bank on development. We've seen the Magic have improved this year with the improvements of Jalen Suggs. If the Magic pick just one or two players from free agency, not spending a whole lot of money, I mean, the same question for you. Would that be a disappointment?
No. Yeah, I'd love for them to go sign Paul George. That's like probably the best end of the season, going into next season, that would be awesome for me on so many levels, and we could go into why if you guys want. But if that doesn't happen, like spending smart money to strengthen the depth of this team, you have to look at point guard options for this team. You have to look at even, a shooting guard that can run some point, like a Malik Monk type. You even look at things like the center rotation and even just upgrading a player like Joe Ingles or something like that. You have to look at improving this roster in meaningful ways, even if it's not landing a big fish, like Al was mentioning earlier. I'm not going to tell them not to go upgrade a position, though, because of Jet Black or Anthony Black or Jet Howard. Like, those guys are nice. Let's be real. But if they were going to be if they were going to be awesome, they probably would have found a way on the court a little bit more this year, right? Like, Jet's probably going to be fine, but we got enough tape on him through the G League to know he's not ready. And I'm not going to hold back the progress of this team competing over guys that their ceiling is a role player, right? Now, if they had ceilings of being awesome starters, that would be sick. But I don't get the sense that, and granted, it's only been a year for both of them, and one of them never even really played much NBA minutes, but I don't get the sense that that's who these players are. And so, therefore, like, if your ceiling is like a high-end six-man type player, like, we can go find that, and I want this team to compete and get better elsewhere. So, like, nah, man, they can earn their minutes, and we can let them earn it through improving of the roster, right? I don't necessarily think we should stifle them, like, down at the very bottom or go trade them, but I'm not afraid of improving this roster over Jet Howard and Anthony Black.
A reminder, if you're looking for...
Sorry.
Yeah, 100%. A reminder, if you're looking for more Orlando sports content, not just Orlando Magic, but UCF, Orlando City, and any of the top stories Central Florida sports fans care about, check out the Zone Heads Orlando podcast. Brandon Kravitz and his crew, they drop about 4 episodes per week. And this offseason, and even though it's offseason for, NBA, right after these playoffs, still a lot of different sports happening with the start of the NFL and so many different things. So just make sure that, if it's more than just Orlando Magic that you're a fan of, check them out. And then just to kind of add to your point, I agree with you, man. We can't just rely on Jet Howard and Anthony Black and just expect that, the development, the offseason, that's going to be our savior. At the same time, we know that this front office, they don't make bad decisions, or they don't make risky decisions. Everything is very calculated. Everything is within their plan, their structure. They're okay with there being a journey. They're not going to pull the trigger on winning today, right now, as much as we feel the urge and the need to be able to do that. That's why I do feel like Paul George isn't a realistic option for them, especially with the amount that he would command in a contract. I think I saw online like 3-4 years, $220 million is what it would take to get Paul George. Like, I can't see Jeff Wellman taking out his wallet and putting it on the credit card. Like, I don't see them doing that. I think that the Magic will.
$5 a year towards his $5 a week towards his salary. By the way, guys, I can chip in.
Yeah, I'll put in 30 cents a day. That's what I got.
$5.30.
I think that.
Let's go.
Yeah. We need to start a GoFundMe, and I think that we can make it happen. But in realistic, like, it's just not going to happen. Would it be cool if the Magic decided to put a little package together and get a player like Trae Young? Yeah, it would be cool. But I think that at the very least, what this postseason has shown is that, it highlighted even more what our weaknesses are. It'd be nice to get an upgrade at the big man position. It'd be nice to be able to have a point guard kind of settle things down. It would be extremely nice, Steven, to get an upgrade from Joe Ingles. Like, that would be amazing, right? And I think that there's options out there. Like, I like the thought of Hartenstein from the Knicks. I like the idea of somebody like D'Angelo Russell, who wouldn't be crazy expensive, and we can bring him, and he's a bigger guard, and he wouldn't be expensive, and he can shoot a lot better than our current point guard that we currently don't really have right now. So there's a lot of different options that the Magic could take. I expect the Magic to go the absolute safest, and less riskiest option. And I think you do that by, trying to get an improvement with your shooting, bringing in Malik Monk. I think that's something that should be your number one target, in my opinion. But I think that there's options there that would make sense. And that's definitely not going to break the bank, no matter how much money the Magic may or may not have to spend.
So let me ask you guys real quick. So with that being said, we got to upgrade the point guard position. I heard it from both Anthony. I've heard it from Steven. Have we seen the last of Markelle Fultz in Orlando?
I want to be nice, and I'm gonna let Ant say his response first.
So I think it was refreshing a little bit to see him play better than what we've seen throughout the season towards the end, right? At the same time, we saw that he still has some issues with his knee that has been bothering him, and he hasn't been fully 100%. At the same time, during the exit interviews, he talked about how, he wants to be a part of this Orlando team and watch the team build and grow. And he wants to be a part of that. But then he also mentioned that he understands that this is a business. I don't foresee Markelle being back. I do think that this is the last that we've seen of Markelle. I also don't think that that's going to be, a fast decision. I think that the Magic are going to take their time, see what's out there, and if there's something that they don't like or doesn't make sense, I think that Markelle would be someone that is okay with waiting around. I don't see him jumping at the first team that comes calling. Like I really think that he's going to wait out to see what the Magic decide, and then it is what it is. But no, I don't think we bring him back. Right? I don't think we bring him back. I hope we bring Joe Ingles, because obviously it's contract wise. I hope we transition him into a coaching role. That's what I hope.
Yes.
Like I'm done with the Joe Ingles experiment. Steven.
I know you're pointing that at me. Yeah, Markelle Fultz, I don't think he's back. I will happily write him a thank you card and send him on his way. I like Markelle Fultz. Great player, seems to connect well with great person, seems to connect well with the team very well. Good teammate, good advocate for this team, but he's just not what this team needs anymore. And like, it was cool that he added some value and had a good playoff performance in a handful of games. But I just like, it's kind of, I don't think it's going to be that hard to replace him on a healthier body that can shoot the ball as well. Particularly when you're looking at a 6th, 7th, 8th man off the bench that's getting anywhere between 6 and 12 minutes a night. Like, the value of Markelle Fultz has just gone down because his role has been reduced for the Magic. So, I think that's okay. Thank you, Markelle Fultz. You've been wonderful. Joe Ingles, so this is kind of, I don't think he's going to be a coach yet, but I think they could decline his player option or his team option and bring him back on like a 2 years for $8 million. So it's like a fraction of the price. Gives him another year to be a player coach, because that's kind of really what I think he'll be. And I think they value his leadership in the locker room. And when he goes from player to coach, it's going to change. The dynamic will not be the same. So I imagine they'll probably keep him around maybe one more year. The only reason I would care about the money is if we need it for someone else. I don't care that he gets $11 million this year because it's expiring, unless they want to use it for someone else. But I bet we see him back next year, unless we get Paul George.
Yeah, I actually agree with both of you. I think that we've seen the last of Markelle Fultz in Orlando. I've seen some commentary on Twitter where people are saying like, hey man, he was hurt this year. He'll be back next year, be better than before. Let's bring him back. And in my mind, we've been saying that since 2021, 2020. Like, we keep waiting for Markelle to be healthy. And unfortunately, it's just, I feel bad, but it's not going to happen. Whether it's the knee, the shoulder, TOS, whatever you want to call it. I just think that unfortunately his body is failing on him. And I wish him the very best. Whether that is in Orlando, that is in a different team, I think he'll find a role, whether it's a backup point. I think it's a backup point guard at this point in his career. But unfortunately, Orlando needs to move on. We got to add a shooter. We got to add a point guard that can simply be a threat from the 3-point line, just because again, Paulo and Franz need that space to go to the hoop. So from that perspective, I think that his days in Orlando are over. We'll see what happens. I don't know if the front office sees Jalen Suggs as the next point guard. They tried it this year. It wasn't horrible. So is Jalen Suggs third point guard going forward? He's shooting it well. Playmaking wise, Paulo and Franz are the ones that are doing that the most. So is that their vision? I don't know. We'll find out. But I definitely think a guy like Tyus Jones, a guy like, I don't know, D'Angelo Russell, if he wants to come to Orlando and it makes sense, maybe. I think as a locker room presence, he may not fit in, though. We'll see what happens there. But we'll see. I think there's a lot of exciting things to look forward to here as we head into, the end of June, end of May into June with rumors and things like that are going to happen. So the fun thing is that we are players. We are being mentioned in rumors. And again, we haven't experienced that in a long time. So it's going to be fun.
Can I just jump on in and just add to that too? You mentioned culture in the locker room, and I just think fans should be really thankful for the season that we had this year and how much fun it actually was, because it might not be this fun going forward, right? Expectations are going to change. Personalities within the locker room are going to change. At some point, Cole Anthony might not be on this team anymore, and Chuma Okeke, who apparently everyone loves, and Markelle Fultz, they might not be on this team next year. Things will change. Doesn't mean it's going to be bad, and they're not going to have this community vibe, but it might not be what it is this year. So just as frustrating as it is that the Magic didn't have that great second half in Game 7 and make it to the second round, as you reflect on the season, just be thankful, because it was so fun, and hopefully it continues to be fun, but dynamics will change, Things only get higher with the more pressure that a team has.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because that's, you can really point at the team chemistry as being, one of our strengths this year. When we talk about development and skill, we obviously saw that with, individual players, but development from a team chemistry perspective was massive. It was huge. And, at the beginning of the season, a lot of the players, during the offseason, they talked about how, they feel really lucky in being able to have a coach like Coach Mose. He's one of the good ones, and, they want to perform, for him. That's all part of that chemistry. And, it's a big part of our, bargaining chip as well when it comes to free agency. I think for the most part, players are in tune, and very similar to real life, job hunting, right? If you're looking for a job elsewhere and you have a friend that works there, you're going to reach out and say, how's that place? How, if you're, you work at Walmart, great. How do you like working for that manager? These are all conversations that I'm sure these NBA players, they connect, and not just NBA players, agents and everything, man. So I think that, from top to bottom, from players to coaching staff to ownership to us being able to show off our practice facility. It was cool hearing Bobby Marks. If you haven't checked it out, his offseason preview of the Orlando Magic was awesome. It was. I love hearing Bobby Marks because it's very different than some of the other people that kind of have done what Bobby Marks have done in the past, and they talk negative. He at least speaks from an objective standpoint, and he was just kind of talking about how the Orlando Magic have everything. We literally have, there's nothing that we don't have. We have the space, we have the money, we have the picks, we have the talent, we have the players, we have the coaches. Our practice facility is the best in the NBA. He called it the Taj Mahal and the Ritz-Carlton of practice facilities. This is so many different things that are in our favor, and we haven't even talked about no state taxes and the weather. This is all looking really good for the Orlando Magic. So as much as I said earlier that maybe Klay Thompson isn't realistic, Paul George isn't realistic, at the same time it might be. There's so many different things in our favor, and Jeff Weltman during his exit interviews he said it pretty often and multiple times, where he says we're gonna have to make a lot of tough decisions, and you're right. This team really connected this year, and this team may look you lose 2 or 3 players and you have a completely different team, and the dynamic of it changes. So grateful for the season. Next episode, I'm sure either one of us we're going to end up doing some type of season preview. But hell of a season, a lot of fun. Postseason was great. Journey from beginning to end. Roller coaster ride. It has been definitely one to remember and really exciting. Just to note that our off season in terms of recording is going to look a little different. We will be recording bi-weekly, and we'll be offsetting one another. So one week you will have the HQ podcast, and then the following week you have the close up. So just keep that on your radar, and then keep an eye on other things. We're still going to be pushing out content. Whether that be written, podcast, space form, there's going to be a whole lot of content still coming out. So even though the postseason is over, the off season is just beginning. Free agency starts, you said, Al, June 30th, 6 p.m.
June 30th, 6 p.m. Then we have the draft as well coming up here in June. It's a 2-day draft now. So we have the first round one day, the second round another day. That's new for all of us. And then Summer League as well.
Summer League. Oof.
We have some things to look forward to here over the next few months before the dead season starts, which is after like July 20th until September 28th-ish. There's nothing going on. But for now, we have plenty to look forward to.
Yeah, we're expecting Jet Black to be in that Summer League. No word yet on Anthony. Jet Black, listen to me. Jet Howard.
It might both be.
Yeah, I know, right? Jet Howard expected to play in the Summer League. Anthony Black, we still don't know yet. And then, oh, by the way, we have another draft pick. What do we do there? So a lot of questions that need to be answered, and the great thing is we're going to find out soon. So awesome episode. Steven, appreciate you joining us. It's a wrap. We'll catch you guys next week.
For all the latest Magic news and updates, visit OrlandoMagicHQ.com and follow us on Instagram at Orlando Magic HQ and on Twitter at OMagicHQ. Also, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel and subscribe and leave a 5-star review on your favorite listening platform.